A metallic sound rings out as the blade of my sword clashes against my opponent's. The clang of our weapons has become as familiar to me as the chimes of my own grandfather clock. Likewise, this sword fight feels more like carrying out the emotions of a recipe than the life or death battle it ought to be. We know each other's ticks and tells too well. A dodge is a little more than a quick measurement, a parry the same as a pinch of spice. Begone! You are not welcome here! You're not welcome in this land! We've had more of these battles than I can count. We fight to the death, yet somehow we always both live to fight again. After trading blows, we each stand back. I take the opportunity to examine my opponent. He's not much worse for wear. Parts of his shirt are torn, with blood staining the fabric. But I've clearly only given him flesh wounds. He is barely breathing more heavily, not even close to being tired out. We're too evenly matched. For all that's said about vampiric strength, Julien is a swordsman par excellence. If he weren't so single-mindedly devoted to killing me, he'd be an asset to the royal army. What can I do to convince you to leave me be? As always, I plead with him. Yet another one of the motions. You know the punishment for your crimes is death. And he carries out his own role too, never faltering. Even as we speak, we begin circling each other again, waiting for an opportunity. Part of me finds Julien's determination admirable, but most of me is just irritated. There's no point in making my case to him. I've done it so many times, and nothing I've ever come up with could convince him that I wasn't worth killing a second time. I don't even think I can blame him. Not really. But I do not intend to go down without a fight. And I'll keep fighting, no matter how tedious it gets, as long as it means I get to live another day. He lunges towards me, and I move to parry his strike, continuing the familiar dance between us. The duel ended the same way all the others did, with a complete stalemate. That time, he was the one to retreat, vowing to come back and kill me. After some time without his presence, I began to settle back into my routines, my everyday ones that don't involve sword fighting. Tonight, I'm reading in the Manor Lounge, accompanied by the sounds of a thunderstorm outside. The worst of the storm is just far enough away to be only a low rumble in the distance. Heavy rain pelts down onto the window panes as I turn the pages of the book. Funnily enough, it's a novel about a vampire. I don't normally seek these stories out, but they can be amusing. These authors usually get at least a few things wrong, although sometimes I read one that makes me wonder if the writer was a vampire themselves. This particular book isn't one of them, however, but as the vampire heroine turns into a swarm of bats, I hear a strange noise from the direction of the manor's front door. At first, I think little of it. There are many noises one can hear during a thunderstorm. It serves me little to jump at the smallest sound. But it comes again, and again, and again. Someone's pounding on my door. Why? I place my book aside and get up. Moving towards the sound, I look through the door hole to see what's outside. What the? Before I can think anymore, I open the door forcefully. Julien, what the hell are you doing here? Normally, the answer to that question would be self-evident, but not now. He's in a more pitiable state than I've ever seen him, deeply injured and covered in blood. His own, I assume. He lays on the ground, barely able to support himself enough to lift up his own torso. What do you think? His voice, while cutting as usual, is strained. Who did this to you? Does it matter? If you're not going to help me, then just close the door and leave me to die. There's no need to drag this out. I look down at him. This is an opportunity I never thought I'd have. If I close the door, I'll finally be free. No longer will I have to deal with the constant threat of being attacked by him. I can finally be left alone. So why am I hesitating? I need to make a decision, and quickly. I think it would be just really funny if I just shut the door. I mean, he shows up at my door, begging me for help. I'm just like, no. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna shut the door. The moment passes. I know what I need to do. I should put him out of his misery. Bleeding to death in the rain must surely be a terrible way to die. Closing the door, I grab my sword and take it out of its scabbard. As I hold it in my hands, I imagine myself sticking the blade through his chest. It's a sight I've fantasized about for a long while, and it's finally within my grasp. Why doesn't this feel as satisfying as I imagined? Is it because the wounds on him weren't inflicted by me? Because I'm merely finishing off something some unknown force started? I shake my head. I can't let this stop me. When I open the door again, I see Julien look up at me, his head moving as quickly as it can in his weakened state. For a brief moment, I can see hope in his eyes. And when the reflection of my sword appears, I can see that hope being extinguished. Once a murderer, always a murderer. You do the same in my shoes. Julien says nothing, his mouth a thin line. I steel myself. He doesn't fight back when I send the blade through his chest. How could he, when he's so injured? Soon, anticlimactically, his body is a lifeless husk. There is nothing meaningful left of the man I knew and hated. The next moments feel like they go by without my own involvement. I put away the sword and pick up Julien's corpse. With rote movements, I then leave the manor and take the body to a nearby river. The rain is soaking through my clothes. Yet, I can't seem to bring myself to care. I throw him into the water. He is no longer my problem. At some point, I make it back home, though I remember nothing of the journey. I'm free. But why do I feel so empty? I'm free. This is what I've wanted. Isn't it? I don't think that's what he wanted. But fine, I guess we'll give him what he wants. Fine, I'll bring him inside, but I don't know how to feel about bringing my number one nemesis into my manor. Looking at him in his state. I can't kill him like this, and I certainly just can't leave him to die. I kneel down to pick him up. So you do have a conscience. Quiet. You're weak enough without wasting your energy talking. Huh. Well, he still seems irritated, and I don't think I can blame him. He says nothing more. As I take Julien inside my home, rainwater and blood dripping from his body onto the wooden floor, I reckon with the decision I've made. I tell myself that it would have been unsportsmanlike to just stab him outside, that we spent so long fighting on equal footing that it would be unfair to simply take him down like that. I take him to the nearest guest room. It's a bit of a misnomer, as I've never had any guests in it, or any of the others, but presumably, that's what the previous residents used the room for. It's not the most pleasant space to be in, given how dusty everything is, but it has a bed, and just in time too, as Julien falls unconscious the moment we enter. I set him down on the mattress and begin to remove Julien's shirt, what's left of it. Without the fabric in the way, I can get a better look at the extent of his injuries. I mean, he's pretty battered, but doesn't seem that bad. Man, really? This knocked you out? They're awful. Deep, gushing gashes across his chest, stomach, and arms. Even I never left wounds like this on a human. Who did this to you? Julien is predictably silent. Was it another vampire? Why is there so much anger in my voice? Before I can let my emotions cloud my judgment even further, I take a moment to settle myself, then start to calmly treat Julien's injuries. It's certainly a challenge. I know a little bit of first aid, mostly remnants from my human life, but I'm no doctor. Why would he come to me for this? Was there really nobody else who could possibly help? Despite everything, though, I made progress, Eventually, I've stopped the bleeding and dressed the wounds with old bandages I found in storage. It will have to be good enough. I cleaned the area and Julien himself as best as I can. Although the sheets are ruined, I suppose I'll have to replace them. Soon, I'm left to simply observe as he rests, now covered in bandages. His breathing is steadier, less strained, although I know well that anything could still happen at this point. Is this where I bite him? Can I eat him now? Can I turn him into... Okay, never mind. Strangely, the first thought that enters my mind is how beautiful he looks. God damn it, I thought he looked scrumptious. When he's not attacking me, he makes for a pleasant sight. The flickering candlelight complements his warm hair and skin, and highlights the freckles dotting his face and shoulders. He looks more peaceful than I've ever seen, than I ever imagined he could be. The one feature that mars him is one I recognize well, a scar crossing his lips. I know that he didn't have it when we first encountered each other because I was the one who gave it to him. It feels strange, knowing that this man has a permanent reminder of me on his face. Almost as if we're somehow tied together. I think the bloody sheets are impairing my judgment. It usually doesn't get bad until I need to feed, but he did lose a lot of blood. Any vampire would have a hard time thinking completely straight in this situation. I should clean up the rest of the house before I do something else I'll regret. We could turn him into a barbecue. I'm just saying. However, even for a vampire, cleaning blood off a wooden floor is hardly riveting work. It's further dragged out by the fact that I make sure to pop into the guest room every few minutes to make sure Julien hasn't died. He's alive. He'll be fine. It's become just a little bit more real each time I check. While I'm running around the manor, I also take the time to look for clothes to replace Julien's ruined ones. Amazingly, I managed to find a selection of scattered pieces that, while not identical, are extremely similar. Soon after I finished cleaning up the rest of the mess on the floor, I noticed that daytime is rapidly approaching. Normally I would be asleep well before this point. Instead, I make sure that the curtains of the guest room are fully closed so no sunlight can get in, and settle down in a chair next to the bed, the novel I was reading in hand. I open the book to where I left off. The heroine transforms into a swarm of bats, each going in a different direction to seek out her prey. What's wrong with you? Huh? I open my eyes in confusion. Wait, why were my eyes closed? If I weren't too weak right now, I would have killed you right then and there. Who the hell sleeps in front of their enemy? Other than you? Extenuating circumstances. Right. Julien sits up as best as he can, although his movements are slow as he ends up lopsidedly, leaning on a pair of pillows. I should probably tell him not to overexert himself, but I don't think he'll listen to me. And really, it's in my own self-interest that his recovery is prolonged as much as possible. He's just going to go back to making attempts on my life as soon as he can. This was not a very good plan on my part. Now that both of us are awake, I'm at a loss. Should I talk to him? What should I say? Who did this to you? Why come to me? Who did this to you? So how did you end up like that? Like what? Severely injured. We fought enough for me to know that it would take someone or something extremely powerful to harm you to that extent. He looks at the wall in the opposite direction I am. None of your business. Well, that was enlightening. Maybe if I go about it a different way. Is whatever did that to you something I would have to worry about too? He turns his head and stares into my eyes, a chill in his gaze. You think I would tell you that? Julien looks away, breaking our eye contact. You can be torn apart too, for all I care. Suddenly, Julien hisses, grabbing at his bandaged side. Damn it! Lay back and go back to sleep. You're going to overexert yourself if you're not careful. I'm not even doing anything! Ugh, you're not even a doctor. You shouldn't get to talk to me like that. Well, you thought I would be a good enough doctor that you'd come to me instead. You don't get to change your mind now. He grumbles more insults at me before settling back down. Despite how annoyed he is, he's remarkably pliant. Don't know how you expect me to sleep like this. Like what? In pain, in an unfamiliar bed, with you watching. I suppose I can sympathize with him a bit. It's been some time since I've needed to rest in an unfamiliar area, but it's hardly pleasant. The least I can do is try to help out. I'll ask what he needs. Then what can I do? He looks at me strangely. Whatever he expected, it wasn't that. What do you mean, what can you do? This time, I'm the one who looks strangely at him. What was confusing about my question? To help you sleep, so you can stop wasting your energy talking back at me. So if I say I need you to sing me a lullaby, don't test your luck. Spoil sport? He winces, not at me for once. It's been too long since I've had a real conversation. Probably a bit rusty at it. That's strange. Isn't he part of a hunter's guild? I thought they were all pretty friendly with each other. Maybe he's just exaggerating. That will make the two of us, then. Well, a rusty partner is better than nothing. Being alone, it makes me itchy. Just keep talking to me until I fall asleep. That'll be out of your hair. Alright. It's not the request I expected. We both get to be surprised tonight, apparently. But if I'm telling the truth, I don't mind this. I was never extremely outgoing, even as a human. But the only conversations I've had in the past few years have been Julien and I yelling at each other, interspersed by the rare lost traveler at my doorstep. This could be a refreshing change of pace. But what do you want me to talk about? I don't know. Surely you've got some sort of hobby. You don't spend all your time staring at your walls, do you? No, nothing that dreadfully boring. I do enjoy reading. I see. You don't stare at your walls, you stare at paper. I hate that he isn't wrong. You don't have to say it like that. I know. Just giving you a hard time. Never been a big reader, but there are a couple of books I like. What are they? Perhaps I've read them. My favorite is... Before I can sate my curiosity, he seemingly remembers that the two of us hate each other, clamping his mouth shut. A secret. Well, just because he doesn't want to play along any longer doesn't mean my own fun has to end. I see. That one has a weak ending, but it was enjoyable on the whole. A respectable choice. Huh? Julian's eyebrows furrow in a confused scowl. A Secret by Marianne Barat. That is your favorite book, yes? What? No, you just made the book up! I absolutely did not, and I can prove it to you. I set up to make a short sojourn to prove my point. Returning to my own bedroom, I pick up the book in question. Glad that my own hoarding has paid off for once. When I get back, however, Julien is sound asleep, preventing me from lording my victory over him. For now, at least. After he wakes up, I'll have to remember to show it to him. I'm sure he'll be irritated by it. While Julien's asleep, I have to begin planning some of the other aspects of our cohabitation. The first to come to mind is food, as I don't need to eat over my residence in this home. I haven't felt the need to stockpile any. This is all perfectly well and good for a vampire whose sole nutritional requirement is to drink blood once a month, but I doubt my guest will appreciate not being able to eat actual food during his recovery. Sighing, I place a hand against my forehead. Arranging this is going to be such a hassle. Why did I agree to help him out again? It was the honorable thing to do? Right. It would have been undignified to just let him die. But what does dignity mean for me anymore? I have no friends. I don't even have acquaintances. The only person I have any sort of regular contact with at all is Julien, and he would be too dead to have opinions on the matter. The more I tell myself that it's about honor and dignity, the more the explanation rings hollow. Before long, we enter a routine that I never could have predicted before that night. Not in the least because for the first time in years, I have to gather and prepare food. The dinners I made are hardly fine dining, mostly hunted meat and gathered items, plus bread I pilfered from a merchant caravan that seemed to satisfy him. I'm not sure whether to be grateful that he's accepting my meager attempts at cooking or angry that his standards are apparently that low. At first, Julien spends most of the day and night sleeping, with only short interludes where we converse with each other. Most of these conversations are unfruitful. He's still closed off from me, and I also have little interest in sharing information he could use against me. Yet, there are still a few that are almost cordial. What's with the decor? Julien isn't as weak now. He can easily sit up on his own, and he doesn't seem to be in as much pain as he moves. His restlessness has manifested in attempts to annoy me with frivolous questions. Is there something wrong with it? It just doesn't seem like the kind of stuff a vampire would put up. How am I supposed to respond to that? It isn't, technically. These were all from the previous inhabitants. All I did was take down the portraits. Julien's eyes narrow. I could see a glimmer of righteous anger sparking within them. The previous inhabitants? There was a terrible plague several years ago. The entire family died, leaving no heirs. You can look up the official records in the city if you doubt my words. The coroner would have noticed if the corpses have vampire markings. The other inhabitants of the city were too superstitious to reclaim the home, so I did it for them. I prepare for more chiding, perhaps accusing me of creating the plague, or saying I've desecrated the family's memory, or simply calling me a liar. Surprisingly, he does none of that. I don't know what to make for the lack of his reaction. I understand him less the more we talk. This was much easier when all of our interactions happened with swords drawn. It isn't long before Julien is back on his feet. His first steps are wobbly, as he spent so much time in bed recuperating, but he can now walk slowly around the house unaided. He still isn't in any condition to fight. I could take him down easily if he tried. But it begs the question, how long is this going to last before we go back to attacking each other? Julien isn't going to back down that easily, is he? What are you doing with that knife? It's not a sword, but you could still do some damage with it if he were more coordinated. Actually, being uncoordinated might be even more dangerous. Huh? What do you think I'm doing with it? You're gonna cut something with it. You're just examining it. You're going to use it to kill. You're gonna cut something with it. You're going to cut something with it? This is one of the things people generally do with knives. Alongside stabbing, slicing, filleting. But why would you need to cut anything? I don't know. You're the one who decided I need to cut something. Just because I was looking at a knife. You asked me to guess, so I guessed. One day I prepared to make dinner for him. He stops me on my way to the kitchen, a determined look on his face. Something's been bothering me about you. Other than the usual things? Julien crosses his arms and rolls his eyes at me, apparently not seeing my quip as something worth addressing verbally. I'm just curious about why you haven't... Oh no. I don't even know why I haven't tried to kill him yet. How could I even begin to explain it? It's complicated. Try to have your way with... Hey! Yo! Julien, what? And I... Wait, what? If I had been given 100 years to come up with every way that sentence could have ended, I never would have thought of that. You're not as subtle as you think you are. Subtle about? Ugh! He presses his palm against his face. The pain he's experiencing clearly isn't physical. You want me, and you could have me if you tried, but you haven't. Is it just that you think I'm still too weak to screw, or what? I can only stand there slack-jawed, and where this conversation has gone. I was just going to make him dinner, and now... this? What? You want me. You have to be aware of that, right? Maybe? I don't know, maybe? My instinct is to deny it. It would be easy, too. I wouldn't even be lying. I don't want him in the exact way he thinks I do. But that doesn't mean I can't yearn. When I dive into my memories, events I've wanted to forget for so long, I can feel everything vividly. The young man I was, who was not much more than a boy, my naivety, my desperation to feel wanted in any way. The man who was once upon a time my closest friend. The happiness, as short-lived as it was, and the betrayal, the despair, and the bloodlust. All of that is too much for right here and right now. How could I even begin to explain it out loud? I think you have misunderstood some things about me. Have I? I don't want anyone in the specific way you're insinuating. I never have. But I see your face in my dreams. I keep lingering on how the candlelight hits your eyes, but I can't imagine spending these nights with anyone other than you. These feelings are too mammoth, too intimidating to give voice to. It's for the best I keep them a secret. They will only lead me to ruin again. But that doesn't mean... No, don't bother. Julien cuts me off tersely. His expression is inscrutable. A strange event for someone who wears his emotions so plainly. I wait for him to explain, but he doesn't. I suppose that's a sign that he just wants dinner. It's not a surprise. He was probably propositioning me, and I more or less rejected him. Right? I'll get started on the food. Alright, you need any help? What? No. You can barely stay standing for 3 minutes at a time. Just eat. That evening's dinner is remarkably awkward, even considering the general circumstances that led us here. I suspect that Julien was expecting a very different resolution to the day that I gave him. He's quieter than I would expect. Surely he can't be that distraught over not bidding me. Eventually, I decide there's little point in staying around to watch a grown man eat a mediocre sandwich in sullen silence. I retire to the sitting room. Perhaps I can finally finish that damn book. Or perhaps, given my luck with it, there will be another crisis needing my attention as soon as I turn the page. No crises to be seen so far. For a few minutes, I lean back and fully relax, letting the story take me along its winding journey. As the heroine prepares to kill her sire, I suddenly feel strangely ill, an old human feeling that I thought I would have died when I did. This book must truly be cursed. Only bad things happen to me when I read it. I'll be glad when I finally reach the end. I once again set the bookmark and put the book aside, but as I'm about to stand up, I notice Julien staring down at me. Can I help you? Not really. I see. How long have you been standing there? Wasn't keeping track. Helpful. He could have gone here as soon as I did, or he could have arrived less than a minute ago. But this is a strange situation. Not too long ago, if Julien had suddenly appeared in front of me, it would mean the start of a life-or-death battle. Now it's merely a mild annoyance. I think we need to clear the air about a few things. Do we? Haven't we done enough air clearing already? That conversation was embarrassing enough to have once. I'd rather not relitigate it. It's not about that. The town did this to me. He gestures first to one of his still bandaged wounds, and then to a smaller one that's closed up enough to be visible on his skin, on its way to becoming a new scar. Guards, rounded up by a bunch of people just to take me to the woods, and they tried to kill me, but they didn't succeed. Obviously. Doesn't mean they couldn't rough me up. Also, obviously. So, you finally have an answer to your question. Why the hell would they do that? It doesn't make sense. He's a vampire hunter, and vampire hunters are respected, aren't they? That's something humans would do to vampires, not hunters. Unless I must have an obvious expression on my face because Julien shushes me before I can say anything else. No, I didn't get turned. I'm completely human. My one lead shattered. I knew it was unlikely, but the reality didn't matter much to them. You should know that as much as anyone else. The only reason you can live here peacefully is because the townspeople think you can control plagues, isn't it? You're rather perceptive when you're not trying to stab me. Yes, they don't want me to wipe out the rest of their own the way they think I wiped out their family. As long as I feed in secret and don't kill anyone, I'm relatively safe. Not completely safe, primarily because of the man in front of me. So they thought you were a vampire. Why? Here, Julien looks away from me, his expression one I've never seen from him. Do you keep up with the Hunters Guild here? Not habitually. The leaders assign hunters to kill specific vampires, ones who are a danger to the community, who have killed and will continue to kill. Initially, I was assigned to kill you, but as time went on without you dying or killing, you were taken off the assignment roster. Not just mine, the whole guild's. I was furious, yelled at the guildmaster for dereliction of duty or some stuff like that. Insisted that you were still a danger, but nothing I said did a damn thing to change their mind. So when the time came to move on to my next target, I just didn't. Went straight to you instead. That was the time I tried putting traps along the path between here and town, if you remember. I do. I think you were overestimating how much I get out of the house. Clearly. Were you this much of a hermit before you got turned? I can see his face, the betrayers in my mind. I shoo the face away before I can say something I'll regret. No, but my past is irrelevant. I'll be going on a walk just around the river, so I don't expect to find any traps. Maybe you'll be surprised. Have fun. I'll be in my bed by the time you get back. As I walk alongside the riverbed, the faint pinpricks of a telltale sensation stirs within me. Hunger. Not the hunger humans have for food, but the hunger a vampire has for blood. Bone deep and bestial. They're distinctly different, for as long as it's been since I've been hungry in a human sense. I remember the feeling vividly. Blood hunger is so different it barely even resembles it. A human in the throes of hunger will shiver and die. A vampire in the throes of hunger will die too, but not quietly. I have some time before it gets to that point, but the sooner I can feed, the better. My normal course of action is to cloak myself, go to town, and secretly feed off of someone there. If I get in and out unseen, it's as if I was never there. So now I have a perfectly suitable human specimen residing in my own home. But there's no way he'd ever willingly let me feed off of him. For a moment, I considered killing Julien before the bloodlust forces my hand. I could probably do it. Yet, as soon as the idea comes to me, my mind instantly rejects it. I don't need him dead. I need him out. How can I drive him away? Simply be as annoying as possible? As amusing as the idea is, I suspect it would simply end in Julien killing me out of exasperation, and I could hardly blame him. I could pretend to attack him. No, he would just retaliate. I need a plan that wouldn't end with my own death. I don't think I'm going to come up with one tonight, however. Certainly not out here. The cool breeze chills me as I make my way back home. My body temperature is already cold by nature, and this weather hardly helps. Being undead doesn't make freezing comfortable. In contrast, when I enter the manor, the air inside feels warm, hospitable. The contrast of it reminds me of why I so rarely leave. There are no spaces out there for me anymore. Most human settlements and vampire covens will kill me on sight. Vampires are anathema to humans, and vampires who willingly kill their sires are anathema to vampires. I've been extremely lucky to be able to carve out the existence I have. And as long as Julien is staying here, that existence is in danger. I was a fool to take him in, but surely this situation isn't completely unsalvageable. There's little point in ruminating like this. If I'm not going to come up with anything useful, then I might as well do something I enjoy. I instinctively reach for the book I've been reading, the one I keep getting interrupted in. but stop before I can pick it up. The book is not cursed. I know that, but it might as well be. I'm sure that nothing good will happen if I try to finish it. Instead, I go to my bedroom to peruse the rest of my collection. It contains a variety of tomes, ones that are well-worn and long-loved, ones that I read exactly once and never again, ones that have yet to be touched after I obtained them. Now, which do I want to spend my time with? I run a finger over a set of spines. It seems to gravitate towards one particular novel, and so I let it come to me. A hunter scheme. How ironic. Or perhaps prescient. Huh? Before I can express shock at the intrusion, a violent pain stabs through my chest. When I look down, I see the sharp end of a stake emerging from me. What a foolish man. It isn't even satisfying to kill you like this. Anything I could say in response is snuffed out by my own weakening life force. So this is how it ends. Not with a grand fight, but with a quiet backstabbing. Oh, god damn it. Alright, so right now we're gonna go with the last two endings. For now, we're gonna go with an alternate bad ending. And for this, okay, it doesn't matter whether you choose who did this to you or say nothing. It's gotta be one of these two. So, I'm gonna say nothing for now. I can't think of anything that I could say or ask him that he would be receptive to. We're mortal enemies. This is the first time we've been in each other's company without immediately attacking each other. What could we even talk about? He would probably just start talking about killing me, and then I might actually kill him. Sportsmanship be damned. The only thing stopping me from doing it now is not wanting my hard work to go to waste. It's strangely satisfying, after being hunted for being a murderer and spending so long fighting, to have my hands be used for the preservation of life rather than the taking of it. What a pity that the life I preserved is Julien's. With no attempts at conversation from me and no entertainment to be had from his end, I can only go back to reading. I'm not sure where I was when I fell asleep though. Suddenly, Julien hisses, grabbing at his bandaged side. Damn it! Lay down and go back to sleep. You're going to overexert yourself if you're not careful. I'm not even doing anything! You're not even a doctor. You shouldn't get to talk to me like that. Yep, I know. We're gonna skip ahead. And over here, we're supposed to leave. I know when my presence is unwanted. Whatever comfort my fretting provided me must be outweighed by his distaste for my existence. Then call me if you need anything. Before I pick up my book and turn away to leave, a strange expression on Julien's face catches my eye. Is he disappointed? I must be reading too much into it. This situation is rattling me nearly as much as it must have rattled him. While Julien's asleep, I have to begin planning some of the other aspects of a cohabitation, and I skip. So apparently none of this matters. I'm just gonna go with it felt lonely just to see what goes on in his head. Putting it into words makes it sound even more pathetic than I already felt. I was so desperate for companionship that I let my own worst enemy live in my house. The echo of a long-dead voice laughs at me in my thoughts. I shoo him away as best as I can. This is not the time. Before long, we enter into a routine that I never could have predicted before that night. Not in the least, because for the first time in years, I have to gather and prepare food. And we skip. And okay, so over here it's you can either choose you're going to cut something with it, or you're going to use it to kill. I'm gonna go with you're gonna use it to kill just to see what's the difference here. You're going to kill something with it. Julien rolls his eyes at me. I'm not suicidal enough to go after you in this state. I didn't say you were going to kill me. For all I know, you saw a rat and decided it was your new mortal enemy. He laughs, loud and clear. Ha! No, I don't think any mere animal could overtake you for that position. Oh, of course not. What rat could be as good at parrying you as I am? One day, as I prepare to make dinner for him, he stops me on the way to the kitchen, a determined look on his face, and we skip. Yeah, I don't want you like that, my guy. You're wrong. He's wrong. He's definitely wrong. Why on earth would I want to be with someone who wants me dead? It makes no sense. And why would I want... He doesn't know. Julien doesn't know anything about me. He doesn't know what I was like as a human. He doesn't know how I was betrayed. All he knows is that I'm a vampire and a murderer. And for both our sakes, that is all he will ever know. I need to shut this down. I believe you have misunderstood me gravely. Have I? He's skeptical. Yes. Really? Really? I'm not so self-loathing as to want a man who would kill me given the chance. Could have fooled me. Do you want dinner or not? Ugh, fine, yes, but as soon as I can stay standing long enough to do the cooking myself. I hurry to the kitchen before he can finish his latest complaint. That evening's dinner is remarkably awkward, even considering the general circumstances that led us here. And we'll skip? At least he isn't acting any different from usual. Perhaps I'm seeing things that aren't there. Eventually, I decide there's little point in staying around to watch a grown man eat a mediocre sandwich in sullen silence, and we skip. I can't count on it remaining merely an annoyance forever, though. Perhaps I've allowed myself to grow too complacent with this living arrangement. The two of us are barreling towards domesticity at a speed I could never have imagined. But there's no such thing as a true peace for a man like me, nor for a man like him, I expect. The sooner we kill this farce, the better. But the most definite way of killing is... Wait! Huh? You don't need to get anything. I'm fine. I hadn't even noticed that I'd start to stand up. I like to stretch my legs, if you don't mind. Julien moves out of my way stiffly. Didn't think vampires could get muscle cramps. No, but we can get cabin fever. I'll be taking a short walk outside. I have to wonder, why was he standing there in the first place? Was he about to try to kill me? I interrupted him just in time. I should be more vigilant. This can't happen again. We're back here. As I walk alongside the riverbed, the faint pinpricks of a telltale sensation stirs within me. Skip. I need to get him out of the way as soon as I possibly can. As soon as I return home, I rub one of my hands on the opposite arm. An old nervous tic that outlived my humanity. If my heart still beat, it would be pounding. It's been so long since I made the conscious decision to kill someone. The last time was him, my sire. He died thinking that I was crazed by an insatiable bloodlust. That couldn't be farther from the truth. He didn't die because I couldn't stop myself. He died because I wanted him dead. But Julien isn't him. For as many times as Julien had tried to kill me, somehow his sins seem lesser than my sire's. And I made the decision to kill my sire in a split second, as soon as I realized what he had done. I didn't have time to think or ruminate until quite some time afterwards. Even in immortality, things can change drastically. Soon, I passed through the front door. I quickly scanned the common area. Julien is nowhere to be found. For the best, probably. I enter my bedroom and pick up one of my daggers, gently sliding it out from its scabbard. I've drawn Julien's blood with this blade countless times. This will be the final time, for better or worse. Before I cross the threshold I can never turn back from, I take a moment to look around my bedroom. Lately, I've spent a bit less time here than I'm used to. Why does it seem off? I look around, but nothing has changed. I need to go ahead and get this over with. This anticipation is clearly addling my mind. Take a deep breath. Unnecessary for my physical body, but revitalizing to my mental state. I leave the room, slowly but steadily approaching the guest room. My feet feel like lead weights clunking around. Every noise seems amplified. I open the door to the guest room quietly, without knocking. Julien seems to be sound asleep. Good. That will make this much easier. As I inch towards the bed, the uneasy feeling only grows, and for a brief moment, I find myself wondering how I can get out of this situation. I cannot turn back now. The only way this can end is with death, and I must ensure that death is not my own. Standing beside Julien, I take out my blade and plunge it into his heart. as I do, pain rips through my own chest. When I look down, I can see a stake sticking out of my torso. I can't even scream. Shit. You fool! He's right. For once. I was fool for not thinking he would be prepared for something like this. At least I can finally rest in peace, knowing that our deaths have ended this fast for good.
Man, it really just ends at the title screen. Holy frick.
Okay, finally we're gonna go with the good ending, and for this, we're supposed to say, why come to me? Why me? It's been weighing on me this entire time. It doesn't make sense. He had no way of knowing that I wouldn't just kill him on the spot. Julien says nothing for a long while. I assume that he has no intentions of answering me. But then he mumbles something I can't quite make out. Huh? I don't have anyone else. Just you. That doesn't make sense. There's a doctor in town. It would have been easier to drag yourself there than here. I might not have need of the doctor anymore, but my excursions into town in order to feed have taught me a little about how the place is laid out. No. No? They don't. I'm not welcome in town. He looks away from me, a strangely vulnerable look in his eyes. But it lasts for less than a second before he steels himself into sternness. I can't help but wonder if I was only imagining it. You're not. Don't humans like vampire hunters? Why wouldn't Julien be allowed in town? I don't ask those questions, however. I get the feeling that he's already told me something he didn't want to part with. There's no point in pushing my luck. So, I didn't have any other options. Truly. I decided I preferred near certain death to certain death. It appears to have paid off for me. That's one way to think about it. If I were put in the same situation where I had to choose between definitely dying alone or probably dying to Julien's blade, would I do the same? I would pick Julien. He's right. The odds are way better that way, and... Suddenly, Julien hisses, grabbing at his bandaged side. Damn it! Okay, I know. I'm not supposed to talk to you like a doctor would, but we're gonna skip. And I'm gonna ask him what he needs. We've already seen all this, so we're gonna skip ahead. Given what he told me, I'm not surprised. There aren't many people to talk to if the whole town hates you. I know that from experience. That will make two of us then. Well, a rusty partner is better than nothing. Being alone makes me itchy. Got it. And we're gonna skip ahead. Head over here. It doesn't matter what we pick. Honorable thing to do. Okay, that's what I would pick. He seems understanding? Or is that just how I want him to feel? It isn't long before Julien is back on his feet. His first steps are wobbly, as he spent so much time in bed recuperating, but he can now walk slowly around the house unaided. He still isn't in any condition to fight. I could take him down easily if I tried. We're gonna skip. And over here, about the knife, we're supposed to say you're just examining it. I think you're just looking at the knife for its own sake. Huh. I approach him slowly to get a better look at the knife he's scrutinizing. It's a nice knife. Excellent craftsmanship, with an ornate, flowing design on the handle. This is the knife I was going to give him, and it became the knife I used to end his life. I don't recognize it anywhere. How did you find this? It was just laying around the foyer, on that small table next to the chair you read in. Right. Maybe I'm a bit too obsessed with my own past. There's no reason for me to keep such a macabre reminder so near my person at all times. Here, you're looking at it weird. Go do whatever you're thinking of with it. He closes the switchblade carefully. Here, you look at it weird. Go do whatever you're thinking of with it. He closes the switchblade carefully before placing it in my hand. I can feel the warmth of his skin against mine for the briefest moment. It's strangely electrifying. As he stands up as quickly as he can in his weakened state, I think I can glimpse something on his face. I must be seeing things. How strange. One day, I prepare to make dinner for him, and we skip ahead. And yeah, maybe I'm thinking of him. Maybe I'm thinking about what's underneath all those clothes and beyond those bandages. And we skip. I can't help but wonder if one day that might no longer be the case. A folly I don't have the heart to cast from my mind. But that doesn't mean... No, don't bother. Julien cuts me off tersely, turning away so I can't see his face. I wait for him to explain, but he doesn't.
I suppose that's a sign he just wants dinner, and we skip.
I know you were dying to ask me. Why the hell would they do that? It doesn't make sense. He's a vampire hunter, and vampire hunters are respected, aren't they? This is something humans would do to vampires, not hunters. Pretty sure this is like right after he explains to us what happened in the town, so skipping ahead. No, I had friends. Family. A lover.
Oh, that was me.
No, I had friends. Family. A lover.
Not that he deserves that word.
A lover? Julien looks back at me. Gone is his ruminating stare, replaced by a mischievous smile and a playful twinkle in his eye. It wasn't as fun as you're thinking of. He's the reason why I'm, well, a vampire. Oh, I'm, sorry to hear that. We grew up together. I told him everything. I trusted him with my life. Now that I've started talking to him, I don't think I can stop. It was only natural that I fell in love with him. And I thought he loved me back. But he wanted everything from me, including things I wasn't able to give. I told him that eventually, he decided the ideal solution for both of us was to enthrall me. How does that benefit you? He thought I would be happier if I weren't worried about making decisions. But I was never worried about that. I was only ever worried that he wouldn't accept the decisions I made, which he didn't. So he tried to take away my ability to choose. But he failed. He was a new vampire who barely knew his powers. He sired me instead of enthralling me. Hell of a mistake to make. Not one he lived long enough to regret making. Well, that's something I can respect. Is it? He wasn't the only person I killed that day. Julien knows that. It's the whole reason he's been pursuing me this long. I look at his face again. He's smiling at me. It's not a smile of pity that one gives to someone they're trying to comfort. It's warm, affectionate. My hand twitches next to me. I want to touch him, to run my fingers through his hair, to wrap my arms around him and hold him close. Yeah, I'm going to bed. You can stop by if you like. I see. Good night.
It's a good thing he interrupted my thoughts. I was getting carried away there.
How long have I felt like that? Decided I should take a walk outside to clear my head.
And we're back in the river. Okay, and I'm getting the bloodlust, and we skip.
This is going to have a very slim chance of success, I think. But perhaps. As I turn back and return home, I can only think that this is either the best idea I've had in my life or the worst. Perhaps both simultaneously. Entering the manor feels like traveling a path I will never be able to retrace. No matter how this turns out, my life will never be the same. I approach his bedroom, the guest room where he's staying. Perhaps there is no longer any distinction between the two. When I knock on the door, there's no response. Julien? Are you in there? Opening the door slightly, I take a look inside. The bed is empty, as is the chair next to it, and the rest of the room too. The one time I actually need to talk to you. Sighing, I look around the rest of the manor. It's not in the foyer, or in the kitchen, or in the dining room, or the bath, or in any of the other guest bedrooms. Assuming he hasn't left entirely, that leaves only one room. My bedroom?! The moment I enter my own bedroom, a wave of comfort washes over me. Everything here is familiar. My bed, my books, the decorations on the walls. And Julien too. Though I didn't expect him to be rummaging through my collection. Do you normally rifle through the belongings of strange men? No, but I doubt you normally tend to your enemy's mortal wounds, so I think we're even. You come up with the strangest equivalencies. I consider it a gift. Why are you here? I try to lace my voice with anger, but it doesn't work at all. All I can manage to get out is genuine curiosity. This is the only part of the house I haven't explored yet. And? He doesn't respond to me immediately. I watch him pick up an old, long-stopped pocket watch, open it, then close it again. Something told me that you wanted to see me. Is that so? Am I wrong? No. I guess my instincts haven't completely failed me then. Instincts? My brow furrows as I ask the question that comes to mind at this. Do these instincts tell you anything about why I wanted to see you? You're hungry. You need to feed. He turns around, facing me now, looking directly into my eyes. And you just so happen to be living with a human who could willingly offer his blood to you. Just because he could offer his blood doesn't mean he will. A fair point, but I will. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing. Is he really going to let me drink from him? Just like that? Why? Julien looks down at his own feet. You've treated me more like a human than anyone else has in a long time. Not just like a human. Like someone worthy of respect. You could have just killed me. You could have used me as a blood bag all this time. You could have enthralled me, forced me to do your will. But you haven't. I don't understand why you haven't, but I'm not going to refuse that kindness or take it for granted. You know you don't have to do this. I know, but I want to. It will be easier if you sit down. I lead Julien towards my bed. This is hardly an activity where people do in one of these, but... How will it feel? There will be some pain in the beginning, if you're conscious. After that, it depends. The sensation is different for different people. For some, the pain simply disappears. For others, the pain becomes sharper and more intense. And, some find it stimulating. And there's no way of knowing which I am beforehand? I'm afraid not. It's not too bad. I've taken gambles with worse odds. And lost them, I assume? Not always. The fact that I'm here at all proves it. Actually, I'm curious. How does it feel for you? I was only fed from the one time, as far as I know. And it was a very unusual situation. I don't think I could extrapolate much from it. No, I mean, when you feed. Oh, well, it is something I need to do in order to survive. So you don't like it? I have no strong feelings about the sensation itself, I suppose. It's neither especially pleasant nor especially off-putting. It simply happens. I do prefer it when the person I'm drinking from consents from the experience. It makes things much easier, compared to having to skulk around neighborhoods at night. Also, often a willing subject presents their own dilemma. Huh? How so? Shouldn't that be an ideal situation for you? With some other vampires it might be, but not necessarily for me. When someone's aroused by having a vampire drink their blood, they tend to think of the act as, well, sexual. They expect me to reciprocate their desires. They want the feeding to lead to intercourse. I don't. Whatever feelings and desires they have, I don't share them. I am not an ideal partner in any sense. Do you understand, Julien? Even if you end up enjoying this, I cannot reciprocate. You already told me you weren't interested in sex. I did, but sometimes, well, frequently, people don't understand. They think I'm simply scared of intimacy, or that I'm overstating my non-interest. They can't imagine not being interested, so I must be wrong about my feelings. It's tiring to deal with this. I'd rather feed off of someone who's unconscious than someone who thinks they know my own mind better than I do. Neither is especially enjoyable. At least someone who's asleep isn't going to try to argue with me. That's a silly reason for a human to try to pick a fight with a vampire, isn't it? As if you haven't picked fights with me for even worse reasons. At least I can give you a fair fight. It's a shame vampires have fast healing. It's not fair that you've given me scars, but I've never been able to do the same to you. Julien's offhand remarks draws my eyes towards the scar on his lips. It isn't the only one I've given to him. There are others elsewhere on his body that I remember inflicting, but it's the only time I can see without him being unclothed. He seems to notice the way I'm looking at him. It gives me a self-satisfied smirk. You're a lot easier to read than you think you are, since there's clearly no need to hold back any longer. I've always thought you were beautiful, like a painting by a masterful artist. Oh? I've caught him off guard, his face now a deep red. Well, you're not getting rid of me anytime soon. Are you sure? What do you mean, am I sure? Of course I'm sure. I thought you might be disappointed that sex isn't an option. Nah, I can't possibly be disappointed because of that. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be here with you. With someone who treats me like an equal, worthy of respect. In comparison, that feels like such a petty reason to be disappointed. Now come on, start drinking before I start crying. It'll be too embarrassing for us both otherwise. Alright, unbutton the top few buttons of your shirt. I can't get to your neck otherwise. He does, shrugging off the top half of his shirt, giving me a good look at his freckled, spotted shoulders. I place each of my hands on one of his shoulders. He shivers slightly. Damn, you're cold. I apologize. I don't. I know you can't help it. His voice is low and soft, a surprising comfort. This is such a strange situation to be in. I keep wondering if this is a dream I will have to wake up from soon. Even if it is, I don't want to waste any time. I lean in, placing my mouth near his skin. This is going to hurt. I'm sorry. Before I can manage to convince myself to walk away from the situation, I pierce my fangs into Julien's neck. He yelps in pain, and I grimace from behind him. I close my eye and try to focus on my goal, on drinking just enough to stave away the hunger. The metallic taste of his blood, the only thing I can ever taste other than ash, spreads along my tongue. I wonder, does it taste better to me because there's truly something different about him, or is that an effect of my affection towards him? Does it truly matter either way? One of my hands instinctively drops away from Julien's shoulder, down his arm. A hand finds his, digging into his own thigh, and the tension in it dissipates when my fingers touch his. He grabs my hand tightly, intertwining our fingers together. When I open my eyes again, I can see, just barely from my position, that Julien's face is red. I squeeze his hand, and he squeezes back. Before too long, I can feel that I'm reaching the limit of what I can safely take from him. I pull away from him, lapping up the last of his blood dripping from the wound before healing it. Now that I'm not focused completely on feeding, I can hear Julien breathing deeply. His hand in mine is shaking slightly. Did I take too much? I tried to sound calmer than I am. I thought I was being careful, but not at all. Just God. No. I know you said you don't want that. Don't worry. I see. I was hoping he wouldn't have that reaction. Are you sure you're not disappointed? Of course I'm sure. Just give me a moment to calm down. Slowly, his breathing begins to even out. How could I possibly be disappointed? I don't even think I could put it into words. Then don't. I don't need anything more than that, if that's what you're worried about. Well, nah, that isn't exactly true. Of course it isn't. I brace myself for whatever he's about to request. If I'm going to be living here, we have to get better food. Wait, what? Living here? As in permanently? You didn't think you were going to get rid of me that easily, did you? Goddamn, so that was a good ending. Anyway, that was Bonded in Darkness. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys do want to play this for yourselves, link to the game will be in the description below. This was a pretty neat story. It was also made for this year's Queer Vampire Jam. And yeah, I absolutely love the fact that we've got more ace representation, especially like in the vampire niche. Holy frick. I do like the dynamic between these two. I always love a good enemies to lovers, but is this really an enemies to lovers? Like if they just become like good pals, or is this like a platonic relationship? I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day. And as always, I'll be seeing you in the next video. This is Lion, signing off. Ciao.